Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury. Please silence your phones if you've not done so already. My name is Marie Dupree. Keith and I have been members for more than 50 years. We first attended in 1969. I am currently on the Board of Trustees as treasurer. I have been treasurer of this congregation a number of times. And I was president of the congregation in 1983 for 2 years. We raised our 2 children, Jonathan and Sarah, in the religious education program. They are now in their 50s with children of their own. Keith and I are very proud of them. The Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury has been gathering together for 200 years. As we work to build a more just world, we respectfully acknowledge that our physical building is on the traditional land of the Pausatka people. I'm so glad that you are able to join us this morning because you are an essential part of our celebration today. Whether today is your first or thousandth Sunday in our midst, person or online, we are stronger because you are all with us. If you are new to community and join us online, we invite you to introduce yourselves and where you are coming from in the chat box if you're comfortable. At the conclusion of today's service, you will have a chance to participate. Okay. Okay. At the conclusion of today's service, you will have a chance to participate in a breakout group for individual connection and deeper check-ins. If you're new and here in person, please fill out a visitor card at the table near the exit before you leave today. And consider staying a few minutes for coffee and conversation. We are one people of many beliefs, many origins, sexualities, and genders. We are all growing, all learning, all loved. Just as you are welcome here. Today we welcome the Reverend Winnie Gordon as our guest speaker. Reverend Winnie is the Black British diasporous, a queer cisgender minister of the Unitarian faith serving the Birmingham New Meeting congregation in England. Winnie has completed a Master of Research degree investigating the inclusivity of people of color in the UK Unitarian worship community. She is also involved with the Ladywood Community Project, a local charity that aids families experiencing financial hardship and poverty. In her spare time, she loves to read, enjoys life sculpture classes, and hand-building ceramics. Winnie believes in a lifelong and so continues exploring faith, practice, worship practice, and justice issues. Our Share the Plate offering today will go to TBICO. TBICO stands for the Bridge to Independence and Career Opportunities. It offers employment-related education and training to the disadvantaged adults at no cost to them, so they can eventually earn enough to support their families without government aid. Again, welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury.
Good morning. I'm Nancy Hershatter, your service coordinator. Let's take a moment to greet one another people beside you, behind you, and online, a special greeting for those of you in the Zoom box. We're glad you're here too. Folks in Fellowship Hall, also greet the camera, because you have friends who didn't want to get out of their PJs this morning who are listening and watching. Hey, welcome. Okay. Does everyone feel greeted and welcomed? Because we're not moving on unless you do. All right. So join us, please, in our hymn of welcome. Number 116, words will be on your screen. I'm on my way. And give it all the energy you've got. Stand up, please.
I'm on my way to the freedom land. I'm on my way to the freedom land. I'm on my way to the freedom land. I'm on my way, great God, I'm on my way. I asked my sister, come and go with me. I asked my sister, come and go with me. I asked my sister, come and go with me. I'm on my way, great God, I'm on my way. I asked my brother, come and go with me. I asked my brother, come and go with me. I asked my brother, come and go with me. I'm on my way, great God, I'm on my way. If they say no, I'll go anyhow. If they say no, I'll go anyhow. If they say no, I'll go anyhow. I'm on my way, great God, I'm on my way. I'm on my way to the freedom land. I'm on my way to the freedom land. I'm on my way to the freedom land. I'm on my way, great God, I'm on my way.
Not too bad for first thing in the morning. I'm inviting my friend Diane Purvis to come up and help with the chalice lighting. Diane's been a member here, luckily for us, since she moved from Martha's Vineyard in 2019. And she has been a member of the choir and board of trustees and on and on. So, love is the spirit of this. Please join us in the words of the chalice lighting affirmation. I missed that part. Ready? The words are on your screen. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and justice is its light. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek and speak the truth in love, to help one another and celebrate life. And now Reverend Sierra Marie will lead us in the Unison Children's Affirmation. Get your UUs up.
It is so good to be together, including all of you who are online. Let's say our children's affirmation. The words are on the screen. We are Unitarian Universalists. We are people with open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands. We care for the earth and each other. Now let me paint a picture for you. It's September in East Germany, 1964. That's 58 years ago, just 19 years after the Second World War ended. The city of Berlin is divided by the 3-year-old Berlin Wall, pictured here in a 1961 illustration as a red brick wall. On the west side is a sector occupied by the US, although military occupation of West Germany by the Allied forces officially ended about 10 years earlier. The east side is the Soviet-controlled sector of Berlin and Germany. Now here, let us paint St. Mary's Church into the picture, which you can see on the screen as well. It is a historic church, at least as old as the 13th century. It had been damaged by Allied forces during the war, but by this time in 1964, it is restored. Inside, there is room for 2,000 people to gather. But on this day in September, it is overflowing with people. More than 2,000. They have gathered for a speech. The same speech by the same speaker drew a crowd in West Germany just before, and it will gather an equally large, though unplanned, crowd in another church in East Germany later in the day. Here is part of the speech. If you think you know who's speaking, shout out the name. Don't be too quick about it. Randy. I'll stop reading when someone in person here in the room has figured it out. I left the gendered language as it was when the speech was given, even though surely it would be different now. Here we go. May I say that it is indeed an honor to be in this city which stands as a symbol of the divisions of men on the face of the earth. For here on either side of the wall are God's children, and no man-made barrier can obliterate that fact. Whether it be east or west, men and women search for meaning, hope for fulfillment, yearn for faith in something beyond themselves, and cry desperately for love and community to support them in this pilgrim journey. Yes, Martin Luther King, thank you. I'll just read the last little part of that excerpt. Regardless of the barriers of race, creed, ideology, or nationality, there is an inescapable destiny which binds us together. This is familiar language, right? There is a common humanity which makes us sensitive to the sufferings of one another. Tomorrow we'll, of course, celebrate Martin Luther King Day. Martin Luther King Day in the United States. But today, the reflections we hear in this service come all the way from England. Most of the time when we talk about Reverend Dr. King, we talk about him as an American civil rights leader. But the struggle for racial justice and struggles for economic justice and peace among people are worldwide struggles, of course. Reverend Dr. King began traveling in 1957, first to West African countries like Ghana that had recently gained independence from British colonizers, as well as places like Liberia and Senegal that had a longer history of independence. He paid attention to similarities between European colonialism in Africa with racism in the United States. After his travel on African and Asian continents, and in particular a month in India, he continued to travel in South America and Europe. He was interested in struggles for freedom around the world. So it's no surprise in the picture that we have painted in East Germany in 1964 that Reverend Dr. King was there, giving a speech in Germany divided, asking for support for the struggle for racial justice in the United States, while providing the people of East Germany support of their own. He had just won the Nobel Peace Prize. Picking up around the place in his speech where we have left off, he says to the people of East Germany, "In truth, our situations are quite different. It is with some reluctance that I attempt to bring you God's word for your situation. I have not been here long enough to discern God's plan for you and his calling to you. However, I would like to share with you the way in which the Spirit moves in our midst in the freedom struggle in the southern part of the United States. He points to a biblical version of a vision of reconciliation and says, wherever men are breaking down the dividing walls of hostility, which separate them from their brothers, there Christ continues to perform his ministry of reconciliation, end quote. When Reverend Dr. King died, it wasn't just Americans who mourned. From here to Nairobi to Paris, those invested in struggles for justice all mourned. Even the Pope marked the moment. Just as Reverend Dr. King had visited West and East Germany in 1964, he had also been to Britain. According to Time magazine, after Reverend Dr. King died, the Times of London called King's death a great loss, quote, to a world that had come to love and respect him. But more important than that declaration of love, it might be said, was the Labor government's efforts soon after that led to the passage of the Anti-Discrimination Race Relations Act in the House of Commons in London. If it was motivated at all by the legacy of Reverend Dr. King, it was love in action. And the story of love in action is still being written. May we all be among those who write in its pages. So ends the story. And I invite you to sing with me This Little Light of Mine.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
It's now time for our shared milestones. I'm going to invite Randy Becker to help with reading those that come in from the chat. In just a moment, you'll join us in Hymn of Reflection. There's more love somewhere, but before we do, we will then be meeting Reverend Winnie Gordon, and I wanted to mention she's coming all the way from Birmingham, England, to be with us this morning, and I'm so looking forward to your message, Reverend Winnie. Enjoyed meeting you online the other night. So let us rise and sing with everything we've got. There's more love somewhere. Words will be on your screen. There's more love
somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more hope somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere.
Welcome, Reverend Winnie.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for inviting me to be in service with you. My reading this morning is from theologian, educator, civil rights leader, Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman, and it's entitled Keeping Alive the Dream. I've left the pronouns as originally written. As long as a man has a dream in his heart, he cannot lose the significance of living. It is a part of the pretension of modern life to traffic in what is generally called realism. There is much insistence upon being practical, down to earth. Such things as dreams are wont to be regarded as romantic, or as a badge of immaturity, or as escape hatches for human spirit. When such a mood or attitude is carefully scrutinized, it is found to be made up largely of pretension, in short, of bluff. Man cannot continue long to live if the dream in the heart has perished. It is then that they stop hoping, stop looking, and the last embers of their anticipation fades away. The dream in the heart is the outlet. It is one with the living waters welling up from the very spring of being, nourishing, sustaining all of life. Where there is no dream, the life becomes a swamp, a dreary, dead place, and deep within, a man's heart begins to rot. The dream need not be some great and overwhelming plan. It need not be a dramatic picture of what might or must be someday. It need not be a concrete outpouring of a world-shaking possibility of such fulfillment. Such may be important for some. Such may be crucial for a particular moment of human history. But it is not in these grand ways that the dream nourishes life. The dream is the quiet persistence in the heart that enables a man to ride out the storms of his churning experiences. It is the exciting whisper moving through the aisles of his spirit, answering the monotony of limitless days of dull routine. It is the ever-recurring melody in the midst of broken harmony and harsh discord of human conflict. It is the touch of significance, which highlights the ordinary experience, the common event. The dream is no outward thing. It does not take its rise from the environment in which one moves or functions. It lives in the inward parts. It is deep within, where issues of life and death are ultimately determined. Keep alive the dream For as long as a man has a dream in his heart, he cannot lose the significance of living.
And tell us about our Share the Plate for this morning.
Thank you, Nancy. Good morning, everybody. I had about 20 minutes prepared to talk today, but Margaret said I only had 2. So I'm here representing TBICO just simply to say thank you so much for your generosity in sharing the plate with TBICO today. TBICO, as Margaret, or excuse me, as Marie said, stands for the Bridge to Independence and Career Opportunities. And I'd just like to have you think about that a little bit. Not everybody is a CEO. Not everybody has a job that they're delighted to go to every morning. But almost everybody could probably do better than they are if they wish, if they work, and they go to school, go back to school in a way. And TBICO offers the opportunity to gain the skill, and I think today, and particularly the digital skills that are demanded on almost any job. And they provide the coaching to learn how to take an interview, do an interview. And they help them manage their money when they make it. And TBICO is unique in my experience in many ways, but one is they're almost staffed almost entirely by volunteers. And Luann Bloomer, who's the CEO and the president, the founder of the organization, that will celebrate their 30th year this year. And she's been a friend of mine for at least 20 years. And her goal is to help people do better than what they are financially and in their job. And the idea of the volunteers is so critical because they're volunteers often from business. They're people who are hiring people and they're coming to teach others how to interview. And you just don't get that anywhere else. And I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. And I don't think there's any more love than here's already.
So it's now time for our weekly offering, our congregational offering. If you are with us for the first time, your presence here, virtual or actual, is your gift to us. Members gathered here in Fellowship Hall, please express your generosity as our greeters are circulating the donation basket. Those online may click a link posted in the chat to make a donation or pledge. You may also mail a check to UUCD and in the subject line, say, share the plate. 24 Clapboard Ridge Road in Danbury, 06811. As we create this holy place together, thank you for doing your part to support and sustain this community that we love. Thank you.
Friends, there's a promise we are yet to fulfill. One that was spoken by Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. 3 school years ago in 1963 on the steps of Lincoln Memorial in his famous Dream speech. There's a promise we made when we invited ourselves into the community of Unitarian Universalists, with its 7 principles and soon to be 8, to become a beloved, inclusive, multicultural community, upholding the inherent worth and dignity of every person. And on this Martin Luther King Jr. Sunday, 60 years, well, nearly 60 years, after his famous speech, where Dr. King expressed how racism did not exist solely in laws and institutions, but in internalized ideas, assumptions, and archetypes endemic in our society's way of thinking and seeing and acting in the world. On this Sunday, we are tasked to stop and reflect on how much we have achieved in keeping those promises, how we have done individually, communally, nationally, globally, in living into King's dream of liberation and justice, and our own promise of beloved community. The promise of liberation and justice includes the promise of recognition of humanity in every person, the promise of equality and equity, the promise to end segregation, discrimination, racialization, police brutality on the bodies of Black and brown people, the promise to end the indignity of gaslighting and denial of experiences of systemic racism. So how have we done living into King's dream of delivering equality for all, upholding freedoms and justice? A quote used by Dr. King, but it's from our Unitarian minister Theodore Parker, states, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice." The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. It's been a long journey, my friends, to reach where we are now, and still we have a long way to go. Yes, some of Dr. King's dream has come to pass. The sons and daughters of former slaves and former slave owners can now sit together at the table of humanhood when they so choose. For segregated neighborhoods still exist, and people can go years without interaction with a person of color if they so choose. Yes, people are more often judged by the contents of their character, yet we are not a colorblind society, nor do we wish to be. However, the color of one's skin is still a factor in many aspects of one's life, from immigration, job selection, housing possibilities, to life chances in a pandemic, and inclusion and visibility in one's church. And King's dread of the governor's lips dripping with words of hate as he speaks in his speech is now a dread of former and future presidents and prime ministers stewing their racial bias and hate. Yes, Black and white children have held hands, they've intermarried, they've birthed children, yet the violence perpetuated on Black and brown bodies still exists worldwide. From the violent interaction in the playground, the shootings in a grocery store or a workplace or a school or a church, to conflict and combat on our streets. There's a long list of names that suffered injustices. Dante Wright, Breonna Taylor, Trayvon Martin, Adam Toledo, to name a few. But the arc is bending towards justice, and we take hope in the convictions happening, even if it takes years. Corey Jones, LaQuinn McDonald, George Floyd, Michael Brown, justice fulfilled. Yet let us not be naive in thinking it is because the time has come and that the arc has bent permanently towards justice. Let us not be naive, for justice to prevail has meant painful times, mighty step backs after celebrations of victories, more white supremacist terror, including the January 2020 insurrection. Justice only prevails when people act with good purpose and accountability to make it happen. And note I said good purpose, not good intentions, because oftentimes good intentions hide the insidious underbelly of racism. NBC News reporter Chris Hayes on March 2018 states, "Nothing bends towards justice without us bending it." He reports how oftentimes the arc bends towards injustices. So as an example, how segregation of Black students in white majority Southern states went from 23% in 1968 to 44% in 1991 and back to 23% in 2015. Showing that the arc of the moral universe is a fickle mistress, needing constant injections of good purpose. As a Brit, born after King's death, growing up hearing my mother's stories, I often felt I missed out on the marches and the protest. And I felt I haven't played my part in upholding the dream of liberation and justice. The civil rights marches of the 60s weren't just an American institution, but globally happening, as we saw from our story. Many around the world, Germany, the Berlin Wall, France, Algerian independence, South Africa, the apartheid, Asia, Vietnam, they were watching and being inspired by the African-American fight for justice. Back in Britain, immigrants from the Caribbean, from India and Africa were facing racial injustices, heightened tensions, as they who were invited in to help rebuild Britain found racism. My parents were one of the many in the Black community of Britain who would gather with others around shared TV sets or radios in small shared rooms, the only rooms available to their Black and brown bodies, to hear the speeches of King and Malcolm X and James Baldwin and other freedom thinkers, your freedom thinkers, heroes, maybe then considered more the enemy of the state. They were our heroes. Their words express injustices and hope were our expressions of injustices and hope. King's dream of freedom, justice, and equality were our dreams. Around 1 million migrants from the Commonwealth nations settled in Britain by the mid-1960s. Back then in Britain, the colour bar was the de facto operation of society, preventing immigrants from finding decent jobs and housing. Black and Asians felt powerless. Activists looked to America and the protest operations and boycotts and began to emulate those actions. For months in 1963, running up to Dr. King's famous speech, the call to boycott the British Bristol Bus Company against the colour bar systemic racism demonstrated the power of organisation and organised Black mass protest. And in 1964, on his way to Norway to receive the Nobel Peace Prize, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. stopped in London and visited with some activists, as well as commanding an audience of 4,000 in St. Paul's Cathedral. Now, for you who don't know, St. Paul's Cathedral is the cathedral where Prince Charles and Lady Di got married. King warned that racism would get worse in Britain without some form of organization to counter it. And thereby King inspired the formation of the organization that we called the Campaign Against Racial Discrimination, a federation of West Indians and Pakistan and African and Indian associates to lobby government, which aided the passing of the 1965 Race Relations Act, our very first race legislation. King's significance was transatlantic, global, helping ideas to flourish and enabling what King termed a network of mutuality that continues today. It continues in the dreams of the young and the old, in the striving for racial justice in many spheres of society that King probably never dreamt of. Howard Furman, his reading in Meditation of Arts, tells us that dreams sustain and nourish life. In these 60 years, Dr. King's dream has nourished dreamers, expanding in the arena of other racial justice that wasn't on the landscape in the 1960s. For instance, Autumn Patella of the Manitoulin Wikamokon community is a racial justice organizer for clean drinking water for the First Nations community in Canada. And a shout out to Vanessa Nakate of Uganda, a race equality climate activist. Like Greta Thunberg, Vanessa is a young person who has spoken up against inactivity of government on climate change. Photographed with Greta and other white activists, Vanessa's black body was photoshopped out, erasing not just her or her work, but the content of people affected by climate change that she was fighting for. We lift up those planting trees activists like Lethisin Nutonki of Kenya, who dreams of a world without deforestation and started an organization to help with reforesting. King's dream has inspired and nourished and is sustaining dreams of rainforest activists all over the world, protectors of indigenous lands. It has fed the waste-free world of Rwanda's landfill activists. His dream has promoted the dreams of stopping rising sea levels of the Samara activists. From migration justice, policy justice, health and housing justice, to LGBT justice, to climate justice, where people of color are unequally affected, there are dreamers inspired by Dr. King, who see the intersectionality of racial justice with all they do, recognizing that without the elimination of racial injustice, all other justice will still remain. Did King ever think that his dream of racial justice would inspire so many and be fulfilled in this way? We cannot know. I do think he would be amazed. Reverend Bill Singford, in the preface of the Unitarian Universalist Pocket Guide, tells us, in a world where racial, cultural, and religious diversity is a reality, Unitarian Universalists know, because we live it every week, that our differences need not divide us, that they are blessings rather than curses. These words echo Dr. King's call for an all-embracing and unconditional love for all people as an absolute necessity for the survival of, I'm going to say, humankind. Yet if we continue on our present trajectory, our nationalism instead of globalism, of worshipping at the feet of a God of hate and fear, that colonizer God of division and white supremacy culture, then the realization of King's dream of brotherhood and sisterhood, of eradication of racism and racial injustice, and of poverty and war will take even longer to accomplish. It is for us to bring the dream to fruition. Furman tells us the dream need not be some great and overwhelming plan. It need not be a dramatic picture of what might or must be someday. It need not be a concrete outpouring of a world-shaking possibility of sure fulfillment. The dream just needs to simply be greeting the other with warm welcome and ease, of passing the motion to proactively work on becoming anti-racist in the form of the 8th principle or the Article 2. It could be marches and protests, lobbying our politicians. It can be the dangerous stuff of body, heart, and mind that risk martyrdom like Dr. King. But if all we can do as people of faith tradition, of said values, is to believe and create that beloved community in our spaces where people of color feel safe and supported, seen and uplifted, then we will be part of nourishing and sustaining the dream and a part of changing history. Author Marianne Williamson, words spoken by many leaders, can remind us that our failure to realize King's dream is our own fear. In her book, A Return to Love, Williamson echoes the message of love that King professed as our redemptive and route to liberation and justice. The love that all faith traditions profess as necessary for human relationship. The love that we Unitarian Universalists understand that births beloved community. Williamson says, "Who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine, as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fears, our presence automatically liberate others. So be our theology, theist or not, God within or love within. Our values as you use calls us forward. In living into the dream of Dr. King, we are called to love, to not play small, but serve the world by being brilliant and gorgeous and fabulously Unitarian Universalist communities. Letting our little light shine, as we sang earlier, and unconsciously in our actions of living out our purpose, living into our principles and values, give permission for others to do the same. As we live into King's dream, we live into our own becoming, and we liberate ourselves, our communities, our nation from fear. and lift all into building communities of love, justice, and equality. May we do so. May it be so. And amen.
Please join me in the words as we extinguish our chalice. The chalice snufter seems to have disappeared, so I'm going to blow it out as if it were my birthday. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world until we are together again. And now rise as you are able in body or spirit and give your all to Let It Be a Dance. Hymn number 311.
Dance with you. May I have this dance with you. Through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance, and a dancing song be heard. Play the music, say the words, and fill the sky with sailing birds. Let it be a dance, let it be a dance, let it be a dance. Learn to follow, learn to lead. Feel a rhythm, feel the need. To reap the harvest, plant the seed. Let it be a dance. 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 A child is born, all must die. A time for joy, a time to cry. Take it as it passes by. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance.
And our closing words from Reverend Winnie.
May we leave here blessed by those whose caring and concern, convictions and dreams inspired us, and seek in our everyday interactions to learn to do right, seek justice, act justly, love mercy, walk humbly, and live boldly into our dreams for tomorrow. May peace and love abide within you and around you, and hope spread beyond you. This day and forevermore. Ashe, blessed be, and amen.
Let us turn our thoughts today to Martin Luther King and recognize that there are ties between us all men and women living on the earth, ties of hope and love, sister and brotherhood, that we are bound together in our desire to see the world become a place in which our children can grow free and strong. We are bound together by the task that stands before us and the road that lies ahead. We are bound and we are bound. There is a feeling like the clenching of a fist. There is a hunger in the center of my chest. There is a passage through the darkness and the mist. And though the body sleeps, the heart will never rest. Shed a little light, oh Lord, so that we can see. Just a little light, oh Lord. Want to stand it on up, oh Lord. Want to walk it on down, shed a little light, oh Lord. Can't get no light from a dollar bill. Don't give me no light from a TV screen. When I look in my eyes, I wanna drink my fill from the well on the hill. Shed a little light, oh Lord, so that we can see. Just a little light, oh Lord. Want to stand it on up, oh Lord. Want to walk it on down, shed a little light, oh Lord. Shed a little light, oh Lord.
Okay. Those of you online will have a chance to connect with each other from home. If you're here in Fellowship Hall, I hope you'll stay for coffee.